Contract language may be varied to meet individual school needs. We're proposing shall provide no less than 30 minutes before or after the academic day. We have some sites that are pushing it all for one time, at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day. So let's say at the beginning of the day, that both of their additional time that's not classroom time is, then their contract hours end before something else is. And so
Where's that? For some of the schools that, let's say you have a number of them that start at 7:40. So, from Title I schools, I think it's asking for coverage, it doesn't happen on the north side schools. So understandably, we want covered, we think that coverage should be provided by support staff.
So they're starting at 7:45, but school starts at 8:30.
Yes. And then at 3:15, then let's say, for example, they go ahead and have faculty meeting, and that does miscellaneous whatever.
So at the end of the day, it would be shut down 15 minutes early. They're not happy with the school. So that would be about it.
7:45, 8:15, or 8:45, the shift it every clip.
So what's the issue? If that's what is needed, or that's what is the best scenario for that individual school, what's the
That if the 3:15 is out, not 3:15, and our students that are on campus, they really can't go anywhere. So because of bus routes and other things, so it seems to be reasonable that on both sides of the day. We have to eat one at a time or whatever bus schedules. Just missing walk.
Yeah, I agree that if they set the time as being, 45 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon, that they should buy by the time, right? Otherwise, you can't really, can't make it within the parameters of the day. So, what's your argument? Sorry, second.
Is the argument because of traffic they can't get out, or because they feel the kids are up?
For both things on the day, of course. So I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's just trying to get people time on both sides to make sure that whatever entry is exit has people in consideration.
Seven point one, A 3B2. We're talking about elementary school. So elementary teachers may use the time during which the students are in special class, but in art, music, physical education as planning for conference periods, except for those unusual circumstances when a teacher is assigned to supervise students during such time. Teachers who are assigned supervision during special areas for compensatory time. Special areas shall be no less than 45 minutes per period. This is to help take into consideration some of the travel times that are involved with moving students from one section to the other. Allowing them to there. So that way there's an appropriate planning time provided.
In some cases, you will have, but it's part of the authority. At that time. You're barely getting up and the 45-minute mark, which means you're late picking up kids. So it just makes it very difficult to designate your amount of time to be able to concentrate on some of that planning.
What is your experience with regard to these special areas?
Additionally, in most other places, let's say 45 minutes. So if you want to codify it.
Right, so on the back, we've got 7.0183, talking revisiting lunch period, the prior proposal. Duty free lunch period no less than 25 consecutive minutes are equal to the student lunch period in that building. We believe that both sites are taking around 25 minutes, so that should be something that we're able to add in here.
Are you experiencing the kinds of much?
Somewhere around 22, some,
Yeah.
and the idea that when you're done with that, really, at best, you got 18, 15 minutes. Just, kind of the travel time. Supervised students, 2 to 1, 1 to 1. Students, sort of these things, special ed elementaries. But it doesn't affect middle and high school, you know, as much as the elementary. I think, John, you didn't.
Oh, yeah, you said no 30, but
Yeah.
the reason for that was the length of time it would then span lunch. Service too. And so you're down to 25.
So like 0183, the rest of the language. In here we can read too. You can go through that.
Just the, with regards. Yeah.
Okay. We do have a note on the teacher comp time, the ACOM form. Making it very clear where it is, providing, people at the school site, maybe see anything on. School sites, websites.
So if you have a note, something that
No, it's not a note, it's like our personal note is the clarification on that would be. A
it
more,
needs to be available.
Some people.
yeah, some people can't find it, so yeah, and make it clearer to find it. Tell it,
Potentially on maybe an employee website. Is there an employee copy?
it's, that would be clear.
I mean, that feedback is helpful. It's, right, so if people are able to find it. Sure.
Yes. Okay, so we've got the next page. 7.0183B3. So we had a strike off from you all, and it was discussion around ACOM, so we modified the language. Now it's one long run-on sentence I'll read to you. When an employee does not receive his or her regular planning time, as a result, the site administrator directs the employee to substitute for another employee assigned task or duty. Or to be involved in activity that is not related to the delivery of instruction, the employee shall receive alternative comp time. Period. And then the other sentence is for contract. Alright. I can't read it again, it's small.
The idea is that it's taking, what we're doing either taking time or so clearly defines that this takes some time and so.
Yeah, so this is kind of addressed in our ACOM language, just kind of read for it up there. We're gonna hear that, wonderful, okay. It's for- Okay,
So some of the things that we were trying to figure out was in terms of, I think. Board member Jones was talking about some distance working type situations and things like that. We looked through some other contracts around the state, both in Orange County and another one that have contract language that provides for it. So in Orange County, it says on the day before scheduled holiday, it's like the superintendent generally does. And the students are dismissed on the day ends. Yeah, 30 minutes or so. There's a lot of times where we go ahead to the email or have fun released. We just want to account for the people that do not have students. Make sure they early as well. As I said already, which can be contract. The B part is to account for treating professionals as professionals. So employees of the bargaining unit may work remotely on non-student contact based on mutual agreement with his or her administrator. Request shall not be unreasonably denied. The administrator must provide a reason for any denial. Right. I think generally we have rules for the lowest common denominator. We don't necessarily consider the professionalism of the people that we have as the majority of our staff. And this really speaks to the professionalism that they have and shows that we respect their, they're gonna get the job done. So we appreciate it. So
We'll give that our consideration.
Okay, so 7.02C1, we're re-proposing this language. From our original proposal. There is hourly rate of pay dispersed in other circumstances. We believe that this is a circumstance in which hourly rate of pay apply.
the delineation is the difference between a professional duty and professional responsibility. What I'm responsible for is within my job duties, what I've assigned. So if you're gonna assign someone additional duty, which already is spoken to 21.01, then it is at the hour.
So you're saying the delineation is there. Are you proposing to define the difference between a responsibility and a BPO? And if so,
We're open to that.
if so, what do you see in terms of, how do you delineate the difference between something professional responsibility and
I think if we compensatory time contract, when it's currently in the contract, it tells you what is a professional responsibility. You have the open house, parent-led conferences. And there's, I think, one other thing that was in there. I would say 7.0.
Or,
Yes.
I was in here before.
And what would be excluded from this, of course, if someone's received stipend for something, a certain, et cetera. So it doesn't necessarily mean everything. So.
I mean, I think that this is a such as, obviously, which if we were to consider such a thing, we would really have to define much more clearly what a is to responsibility and sort of really demarcate that. Because I would say that this such as statement in 7.04. It's all
We're open to removing such as.
sorry,
We're open to removing such.
right, but that's what I'm saying is, it's such as is there to delineate, but this was an example of professional duties. It was not
Get rid
all
of such as then the examples.
okay.
So keep on set for the rate. You're fine.
It's my own writing.
Alright, 7.03. So in-service activities. So. So we're looking at we struck the, when funding is available through grants, special entitlements for employee training. We've agreed to the $25. We've agreed to the language on trainers will pay $30 per hour. We believe that when funding is available is very vague. What funding, how, lots of different trainings. If we're going to these different trainings, they should be paid out as such. And then B, we have no more than 6.5 hours of district-wide in service. As authorized by the superintendent shall be held on designated planning days at the beginning of the year.
Rationale for that is that take 2 days. Take it 1 day, then an hour lunch, 7.5 becomes 6.5. That 6.5 can be folded into the hours at the beginning of the school year that are already designated planning for PD and time. And what we're trying to do, the reason why we want beginning years, rather than have to try to play catch up on something that needs to be done, we want done at the beginning of the year, so people know the information, not wait until later in the year. The additional part is that there's already contract language that says every effort will be made for 1.5 hours to be used by administration, no more than on those planning days. So what that does is it means that there's already a commitment by the district and LCTA to not take planning day time because there's so much else that needs to be done in terms of grading, primary conferences and first one for elementary school. So we believe that it's best to go ahead and front load it so people have the information they need and that will work.
Okay, 7.04, proposed all comp time shall be treated as a comp. The ability to use comp time that people are earning that's not a comp is very limited. Right, to non-student contact time. Or some people that don't have designated student contact time in the unit are able to use all of their comp time, so it's creating an imbalance there. So if everything is treated as a comp, everything can be used appropriately. And we're bringing regards to the earning of comp time shall be earned for activities for which additional compensation is provided, by an example, or for those that ordinarily encompass with employee responsibilities. As salaried professionals such as teacher-led parent conferences. We're still striking PTO and activities and then keeping in school open houses.
Rationale, straight express as part of our something. So we're not following.
Correct, yeah, we're not even some of this stuff.
So I think I talked about this last time. And ACOP was specifically to express purpose of conciliation. It's also limited to 24 hours, not including. It's clearly articulated. Everything becomes conflict. Then essentially all content will be limited to at least 2 to 24 hours. Such your pitch.
Are you saying you'd want to see increase?
As part of the process, we'll allow the agreement to the thing. Somebody who was involved.
That if we keep it 24, you're saying.
We are opposed, I say, it's not being, we, the district is opposed to the expansion of ACOP. It was designed with one express purpose. And, you know, we can definitely talk about it and explore it. We're not just going to say outright no. We can propose the reasons for the council. But we can definitely take consideration. I guess I would just like to, you know, understand the rationale if that argument wasn't thought about.
There are some members of the community that don't have student facing hours, so they can accumulate comp time, whatever. And then there are other members that are community comp time that have specific student facing hours, you know, periods of the day, hours, you know, so they get to a planning period that they can use their comp time then. And that point, you know, we're picking apart an hour of the day, and so we're gonna see that need at 6.5 hours of regular leave and an hour of comp time.
You say some, if some employees. Explicit about what Tyler's talking about, the resource teachers or something.
Correct. Resource guidance, there's a variety of employees that don't have specific student facing hours.
If this, their concern is that they have more opportunity to utilize the better opportunity to utilize compound.
We have a lot of ESC teachers that are getting compensatory time at the tail end of the year to go ahead and keep up with paperwork that should be compensated, right? But when they get the compensatory time, it lapses at the end of the year. Means they
Yeah.
can't do time ends. So if I'm closing out my year and I accrue 8 hours in last week's school, now I can't even use it the next year. It's just basically it's free time.
And then same thing, the obviously the testing season, when we're doing a lot of the major testing and especially in high school where AP testing is involved and those go beyond school hours. People are earning comp time for that, but it's already the middle of May, almost the end of May. When is that comp time eligible to use that it's gonna expire? July 31st.
So. Just the thought. Here. Saying this is the option. The way, right? That's what I was to say. Compound. That be an option.
When you say meeting for approved,
Basically, it separate and apart from, you know, basically just decided to change everything. If we said, you know, we changed the rule, the language in the compound section to say that, you know, you have. I'm just focused on something like a period of time. That period of time. You stand beyond. Current. Yeah. Right. I guess something we have to work out, because obviously, contract teachers are not guaranteed anything beyond the end of the year, but within the, you know, the thought process here is we get like, to deal with the issue of, it was the last day of school. Since you compound to do certain activity. It's not you get it done. So don't be still getting. You have 4 months. Which you guys make sure days to balance it. She has to do.
I think you get your sticky situation, right? If, I'm like reading comp time in September. And right now I use it all the way till May, you put a 4-month number on it, whatever the month may be, right? 4 just for your example. Now I've got to use it by December, but maybe,
Or,
right, or whatever it may be.
yeah, so like in that circumstance, so maybe something like, okay, you less than any time period this year for months.
Yeah.
Would you be receptive to something that's like if approved in May, you get to like October?
We will take.
Okay, yes, yeah, yeah.
I'm just thinking about this, you know, we are against expansion. Like we're not against looking at this issue.
We're against having 2 systems. It's budget. And when we say that starts time, pay comp time. It just. They're
Where you
very,
go back to one.
sure, ACOM. Like, that's
That's
this is Occam's razor, the simplest solution is go to ACOM time, but then you don't want to do that.
Well, it's just because
Not more than 25.
I get what you're saying. It is, sorry. I get what you're saying that ACOM. It's you know, having one way is simple, but the district only ever agreed to ACOM. in the first place. Very specific.
Understandable. We think that the ACOM fund would also provide an option that, for some of those things that we are concerned with, or where AP, extended day, school, guess what? We're now getting hourly rate, because it says in the contract. So don't do the fence for it anymore. If your day extends, this is going to get your hourly rate at the contract. Very detailed.
So, yeah, we can talk about that in advance of individual circumstance. I don't know what you're talking about. But if you'd like to talk about a specific situation, Mr. Knight and I are both available.
So
During labor meetings.
I don't-
Talk about it.
That's not me.
I'm just saying, like, these are, when we talk about, we call out very specific instances that I don't understand exactly what you're referring to. Can't provide an answer to it, but if you want to talk to me about it, whenever we have that opportunity, I'm happy to, look into every circumstance, and we want to, provide opportunities that are for people to be treated fairly and consistent in the country. So in some cases, the contract applies, but in other cases, it doesn't. So we can talk about that. I'm just not sure exactly what you're referring. At this point, I think I understand what you're doing.
Saying ultimately, we're not really interested in bifurcating, or where we basically say, well, now it's planning, AP testing. This thing, and so now there's like 3 things that it covers, but it doesn't cover these, like, it just, for the ease of administrators, it ease the district with everybody. It just seems like one platform, leave it at 24 hours, solves a lot of problems. But we're open to any.
That's maybe.
But leave it at 24 hours would be fine.
Yes.
We're open to any option.
I mean,
Okay, 7.05. All right, we'll circle back about comp time, a conflict, and the comp.
okay, it's fine.
Yep.
It's fine. Bear with. Bear.
So great. All right, so faculty meetings, we've agreed to the language in 2 and 3. Looking at B, which would be, required meeting shall be compensated the employee's regular hour rate. This is referenced in 7.02C. So there are some district level meetings that require people to be present at. In the afternoons after the scheduled workday, so that's what we're looking at, the employee regular hourly rate.
Yeah, it's decided something else that covers it.
Correct, yeah. If their department heads are actually in the department meeting for the district, they're getting a department head stipend, but if all of the procedure are asked to be there, not all of the procedure are getting a stipend.
So you're basically saying that you want, if a teacher, is required to attend that district wide meeting, that would be, it stands beyond. They're saying she.
Okay, 7.08 health and safety, clean up this language, so. For the longer proposal, a brief proposal with some strikes, we bring what we agree to, if we not added. Yeah,
So it's your counter proposal. saying,
You disagree.
correct, yes,
Makes sense.
we should make that one.
What kind of feedback?
Teachers weren't notified. We did hear it. Yeah, we did get it checked.
They have not tested it on teachers yet. It was tested on parents.
All right, we'll pass it on.
Yeah.
That's what I.
We're still working on it. We're still working on
You said that.
So it's only parents.
And if you would in the email, when you send it out, say what time it was sent, because then people kind of go back and say, no, it could be an extra hour. It might be better.
Oh,
feedback for you guys too.
we can let time skip.
Yeah.
As a parent thing. If I think that was somebody.
Question, is that related to the language in E or is that related to the test?
What
The test that the.
just feedback off, because we got an email about, hey, if you didn't get it, but I went back and I was like, hey, I know sometimes the texts go through different time. And if, like, just for your guys, if I knew that, hey, it took me an extra hour to get it, then you might hear, hey, it took me an extra hour, and that's a better thing about your.
Thank you.
No worries. I just want to make sure it
I
didn't.
had to go back and check to make sure, did I miss it? Because it said on Facebook post, oh, okay, but it was attention, not school parents. So I was like, oh, he did.
It's a surprise.
They always are, aren't they?
And you guys are stopped and playing. That's surprising.
It's not too late that work.
That's 5 a.m.
Yeah, let's see what doing working hours.
Whoever said that.
Emergency test.
We're all in the call. Seems like it's working.
All right, so we're looking at 7.10, project supplies. Yeah, that's right. Okay, cool. So we're looking at a district process will be in place. Each site or department for requesting supplies, materials, requests for supplies shall be responded to within 3 working days. So slight modification of what was screened, a little bit of rewording there. And then we believe that requests need to be responded to yay or nay in 3 days. So right now, we get about 2 days, give us more time.
Sorry, I'm trying.
The word district that's moved as well, it kind of emulate the idea of district process for income, doesn't mean that it's a centralized district system, it's just what is the uniform way that the district is saying, here's how you should request funds, a full site or parks. Yeah, compromise. Great.
Then we've got C, agreements on the Florida Teacher Contract Supply Assistance Program should be administered according to state law. And added, when permissible, the funding will be provided in the form of a check or automatic deposit, that's what method. Fund equal to the Florida Teacher Contract Supply Assistance Program, but shall be provided to the employees that work directly with students that are not covered by the state.
So we got some SLPs that, and folks that are not considered classroom teachers, but do work with students and they have materials that they need to purchase and to be able to work with students. But they don't get any funding for this. But we're just saying that in the spirit of, if we're gonna supply supplies to classroom teachers, if that's what they do, work with students, if somebody else works with students, that they should also receive. Love you.
Well, these are people that work with students but not.
Something's not considered classroom.
Yeah,
Sorry.
So you're talking either about what's the guidance counselor. everybody in the district, you're saying, you should see your speaking.
If you're working directly with students and you have supplies you do for those students, yes, that's what we're saying. So, I mean, it's very similar to, I guess, back to the best and brightest bonus program. When you had people that were excluded, like that, it's counselors and these stuff was captured those people. in that.
And that's for this one trade off for them.
It's not, it would not be funded by the state program.
Oh,
That would be funded separately.
Okay, that's the issue. That's the
Because it's
issue.
not
We would
covered by the state. Yeah. Right.
What does that mean that nothing's happening?
We used to get a set allocation for to make.
But they tell you want to set up now.
That part of it.
Now, it's part of the collapse of numbers categoricals. That's that.
But they're still regulating how it's put out as far as like debit cards, checks, and okay.
Look for that. So. 7.14, so for our ESC teachers, some of them are providers, we agree with this language in the past, but sometimes you don't need a day and a 9-day marking period. So if it was one per marking period and there were 4 days that they had, maybe they want to take 2 of them in the 4th 20 days. So it just allows them to pick and choose when they would use those 4 days. So there's a little more flexibility. It doesn't change, yeah, it doesn't change the number of days, it just changes the time frame so they can pick and choose.
A lot of times it's the IP, the first time it's to be created and then the last time it's like
They
you
might
have
go
to finalize.
to it and say,
Let that what I'm working.
Still subject to the.
one of them says that it's not 1 per 9 days, it's just 4.
Not great.
They're gonna take that into consideration.
7.16, for when it be, a teacher may work remotely on not in contact days, on mutual agreement with your administrator, or question on the unduly denied. So this is the same language mirroring the 7.01 ad, we're also copying it into planning 7.16. Yeah.
It means that's copy.
And then C is agree to the language you agreed to, that you added mandated, you agree. Agreements on the grants. Good. Wonderful. 7.18 lesson plan for your proposed language, you proposed language back and encounter with a bunch of strikes, you strike the whole thing, so let's forget it, move on.
So it was maybe.
It was going to get correct. And saying, oh, not the bad.
So. So this is.
Back side, it's got Brad, Brad there.
Yeah, it's still.
Sure.
I'm trying to keep track between 3 different books.
I like these pictures.
Got the real contract, I've got, I was like. I've got this thing.
some dated material right there.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Please.
yeah, that's okay.
I need like, some AI assistance. Wait, there's
She's
still.
behind you.
We're struck that in. So put my. Okay, so additional job duties due to staff vacancy, so we are. somewhat of a reproposal will modify it. Only in emergency situations shall employees manage additional job role beyond their typical daily responsibilities. Employees who undertake additional job duties shall be compensated in accordance with 2101, which is our hourly rate language.
In practice, it's still is the same thing, but it's very clear, once the staff that. you
Yes.
Take on those roles, that staff.
What do you mean by this? You know, additional,
So there's two ESC teachers, one decides to leave, they get all this caseloads and everything for that person. They do another 6 hours at the end of their day, just keep up with the other teacher's work. And they would get paid at their hourly rate because it's job.
Beyond ESC, a regular classroom teacher quits, they've got sub in there, maybe it's comes a, there's someone that's in there a while, but then the other people in the math department, English, science. Help fill out those lesson plans, that way that caution is operated as caution.
so you're saying that like, so if the ESC person, ESC teacher decides to assist with, or he was explicitly asked to assist with the writing down of IFB.
Would be an example,
Would be an example.
that's what it would.
But it, and it's obviously it would be the time that it's outside the. We can't make responsibility.
No, understandable stuff. But I think part of the issue that we have, especially with our issue over Riley right now, is the idea that sometimes, you know, those job duties overlap. So now, let's say my original job duties were to do job A, but job B requires me during my job A to go to IEP meeting. He's not doing job A after hours. They should still get their hourly rate because they're still doing two jobs and it's going to be on. That's why.
Part of it is doing that stuff that we're allowed by profession for the class.
It's basically covering for it, like these would be very specialized circumstances. At least that would be,
Yes.
that's what I understand. It's be very specialized and deliberately identified.
Hoping when teacher quits or like, oh,
I changed it. Before that what is this is a
I do not recall that.
Yeah.
That general meeting about.
it's the ACOM, it's the other class that's best. Clarify.
7.19. Okay, so in cases of non-emergency, teachers will not be required to substitute for another teacher. In cases of emergency, teachers may be required to substitute for another teacher. However, classified staff, non-classroom teachers should be used to cover classes prior to resorting to splitting classes. B, any bargaining unit member required to split class or substitute for another teacher will receive a proportionate share of compensation that is substitution teachers paid to cover absences in that teachers.
This is orange.
Yes. Similar,
Rather than try to say receive 5 students, correct 3 students, half the class, it's just a portion, it's off the workload. That's where it's
Proportionate
What does that
number
mean?
of kids or hour sex.
I would say that it's portion that takes off of whatever the substitute would. And for that time, right?
So the class. Go ahead, sorry, go ahead. Well, you're saying, well, don't, I think piggybacking off what you're saying. The class was split into 4. Kids for each classroom. I percent of those teachers would get 1/4 hours that this is very.
Last 2 hours a day, where I got changed for last. I think by saying portion that. Gives a little more. Site terms based off of, I guess, one of those, it's not much of a set thing, that's. it's never the same thing when you split a class. Good class.
Yeah, I mean, as we've discussed, we have instructed, I think that all of the issues, which is best, that we really instructed our schools not to do this. Lessons in emergency. So this shouldn't be a widespread issue. But it's definitely something we can take into consideration. I think that, you know, you know, my initial thoughts on it are, you know, sure, it makes sense, you know, and so, you know, what's the difference, but there is one. And it may not recognize. Why they trade them better than associated with trying to get all. You know what I mean? So we can definitely take it into consideration.
Which just reminds me of the situation very similar, so if at the end of our session, I'm like, talk to you, you see the notes. Long.
Yes,
Something similar like this at an elementary school.
a one-off.
There's Article 7.
It's a 7.20 legal grade, the second screen.
I don't know, how is it?
That's really gonna be very.
Yeah.
Right.
Very good.
Right, so now we're gonna move to Article 10.
People topics.
Oh, sure. I can have that. Yeah, right.
That is a good point. And so
We're ready to that.
Yeah.
okay, I bring that up as a way to have the website reopen this issue, just,
You want me to take the heat?
yes,
Okay.
it's a good point.
Would you all be, even though that was the original language? I agree with hostility, I don't agree with the word opposition to me, like if the parent thinks the kid should have got an A in margin. You don't want to deal with them anymore. The way I read this is you guys would have unilateral control. Making the I totally agree with hostility, reading some of the boilerplate language. You guys do it all the time. I've been in a community. I've been threatened more in some of those conferences in 40 years of umpire.
So you want to strike opposition?
Yeah, or maybe a better term.
Basically, we just don't want to be able to, for the teacher to say, I've had a disagreement. Even if it is a collegial disagreement with a parent, it does not know what to talk with that parent. Because we see that as a professional teacher, right? But if the teacher or if the parent is showing open hostility towards the teacher, then there's obviously grounds for the administration.
So I think that there are some scenarios where the term. It could be a collegiate conversation where it's going appropriate. Johnny should have got an A, but Johnny should have a C, whatever, they're doing, right, back and forth, and it doesn't matter how many times we explain politely. At some point in time, I guess the decision has to be made of. Who is gonna make the final call on the grade, if the teacher's saying that the grade is C. Versus whatever the grade that is there, at what point does the administrator have to step in and back up what's happening?
And I think that we clearly agree that we don't have any problem stepping in and having those conversations with parents when a teacher feels like it is necessary, right? And so I think that sometimes, you know, maybe we could just see how this language plays out. Because I can't imagine that there would be a teacher that just says, I just don't want this teacher, this parent anymore. You do, right? Unless they are really antagonistic, right? Hostile, antagonistic, or, you know, not letting it go away.
The word opposition means resistance or dissent expressed in action or argument. So opposition would fit when you're, because it's already, they're already expressing it in action or argument already. So
What about a model part for not?
active.
Yeah, because I'm definition.
Okay.
Antagonism, so actively express opposition or hostility, because I've been thinking these are kind of the same thing we're talking about. So.
I like the word
actively express-
antagonistic instead of.
Antagonistic, okay,
Which is actively expressing opposition or hostility, actively expressing opposition, so it's like.
yeah,
They get it, but they're still pursuing it actively anyways, even with the understanding that. Where, but that becomes hostile, but some. So I think these are all very close, so could we agree to say. If the communication from the parent comes actively and it's still. Of the teacher or the show is still.
alright, stay.
Just basically replacing an opposition to say antagonist. Yeah.
I mean, the teachers cover themselves, don't they normally want a third party to deal with someone like this?
Sometimes it's through, starts in an email chain
Or they call you,
or a call and they'll be patched through, if you're like. Both, go down, yeah,
I mean, to be 100% clear, we support. it. We don't want the teachers to be having to deal with antagonists. The administrators, we feel like that's the way to step into those situations. So we just want to make sure that we are not creating a situation with language where it's just sort of.
either one.
unfortunate. That's what we're doing.
So we can,
We're there.
I think we could probably, when we respond to our members, we can do that.
Now we're at 10.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. All right, so we're at 10 and we're looking down some apps.
Good question, sorry.
Yeah.
Do you have a response to 8?
Oh, yeah, to this other stack. And my stack is 10%.
So you're just not looking.
I'm not going to order specifically.
Because we always said that paper credits were better funds than the ones that were not.
It's just housekeeping.
I'm gonna put a number line on here.
I know how to count, 8 goes between 7 and 10, so.
We were doing, yeah, she turned that through. We're, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so F. Your proposal had, shall and then be advised that they. Strike that, we've now unstriked it, made it back to current contract language. We need to read both sentences. And then we got an agreement on 24 hours instead of work days. We added language or as soon as possible instead of unless there are extraordinary conditions. I think that a lot of times we're getting them in there as soon as possible. 3, 1, 2, 3.
I think not supposed to be crossed out.
Yeah.
See, that's just. It could be right. Yeah. It's a long sentence.
I can agree with that.
Because
I can see it there, so.
I think that when the union representation is not available, it's supposed to modify the
And so it could, yeah.
All right, so going back to the front, this is the part that I was missing. You would want to.
Daughter, you too, Chris, are we keeping that? Okay.
So the point is that it doesn't, if union representation is not available, you still have to essentially wait, and we talk about if it's gonna be a cause further harm, put them on paid active leave. But at that level, what's your plan if they're entitled to representation? If you're gonna take the safety security and question them with police, and I just don't understand that. So I understand the emergency part. But you're already losing them for class, put them on out and leave if they're entitled to a rep. Get a rep, right? Exactly. What?
Yeah, you're good.
That makes sense.
I mean, the leading sentence, it says not available and scheduled for renovation.
So, yeah, I think you said, yeah, so I'll read this a different way. I'll start just above this. If the union representative is not available for the initially scheduled conference or meeting. The conference or meeting shall be rescheduled when union representation is available. That's what I would say, within 24 work hours for as soon as possible. Straight. But I'm just explaining principally what the point is, right? And I don't think there should be disagreement, because I don't think you all doing what I just said. Right, saying, oh, no, you can rap well, too bad, we're gonna, let's see investigation. That doesn't help you at all.
The only thing that I would argue is that. It really does need to be a reasonable time frame. And that if we may want to have, we may want to have. That, you know, if for whatever reason we did put some paid administrative. Paid administrative that we would be suspended if there was an undue delay or.
That is a go both ways, because teachers get suspended, but put on paid leave sometimes for reasonably short weeks, in the district admin. Right, they're teachers that want to be with their students, because I'm with you, enjoy your vacation at home for a month, right? But I'm telling you, because I have to deal with it, they overwhelm me, they're like, oh my God, let me get back to my kids, or all I need to do with the kids. So I get it, but both ways.
So, right, I mean, that's the concern really from a operation perspective is to be able to delay for days. Right, really, within contract language. You got, I will admit, you can ask me the question, how many times have we ever done? I would say, well, can you remember a time? I can't remember, but. Sure, there may be, right? But anyway,
Change 24 days to 24 hours, what else would you be?
I think that we're just looking to clarify that. You know, these kinds of circumstances.
So you're looking for like no longer.
And we'll come back with, we get what you're saying. We can come back with a massaging of these lines.
Yeah, I'm sure we can have functionality for both sides, because it makes sense for our side, and how we're keeping ourselves out.
And I would say, I would also counter back to you as it relates to the first change that we proposed, where, you know, the language says that we have an obligation to advise an individual of representation, right? So that what happens if a administrator who is, you know, trying to deal with a very finicky, which could be a very finicky situation, right? And forgets to tell them, oh yeah, you can have your union rep here. What's the report? I mean, so like, obviously, in that kind of circumstance, if the individual has done something extremely, you know, warranting of discipline, would you say that discipline just because that administrator did not give them the heads up that they're,
I would say,
which is not a legal obligation.
I would say procedurally, it's very split history, and that's right. So that's just procedure is what it is, you know, the goal is always to hold employees accountable. But there has to be limits to how we're doing this thing, right, and blocking one factor in group.
I would argue that this language was never in contract until 2019. It was never an obligation, it's not an obligation that is required by law.
So what is your concern about? That we negotiated, they've all sides agreed to. What's the issue?
The issue is that yeah, the burden is, it is an overly burdensome, like we call district. Facilities. Because you say free. Straight, that is not a requirement of law, blind guard. That we advise every single. Those individuals still do have the right to representation, but we don't have to tell them every single time, you have a right to.
But if they demand representation, you refuse, continue to question them, they were crying, so they admitted stuff, you think that would be.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's what food and poison street is, so.
What
So that would apply because it's in the contract now, so Weingarten side, we now agree to this part. And so that's an extension of that now. So I understand why that is not great for you, I get it, but what is here, right?
What I'm getting at is that individual requirement in every single circumstance. We may not know that the meeting that we're going to, it's going to be just. And then you claim it, so the union may then turn around and say, well, you do. Well, how do we prove that we didn't know? Right? It's just one of those things that creates a very major hardship for us. And it's one of those things that obviously it was agreed to. But
Can you give us an example where it's been a hardship?
what I'm specifically, I'm not going to speak to a specific situation, but I know that I've been where administrators have not told them that this is a disciplinary situation and you have a right to information.
Right, but it would become a burden when we hear as a member, someone is saying, hey, I wasn't advised, so it's that never happened once, I think, my question.
I am not going to, I cannot get into this.
So I'm you're
I don't know that that's something that hasn't had not occurred. But you know, and that's primarily because I've not been in the past the one specifically responsible for overseeing this. Right.
So I can understand, so we don't need every starting every conversation with, hey, how you doing? You're in health station, if you feel this is good. I think that's how the weekend was saying, right? So that's why you literally never heard of this before, but when you have a principal who's really convinced about something and doesn't advise, and then they feel that we have language. So I don't view it as problematic, but I can understand why you might view it problematic. I have some. If you have an idea of the counter before decided for moving it, I'm thinking of some. Because your issue is that all conversations may be disciplinary.
If I'm just having a conversation at that point, like you just said, and someone comes out and says, oh, goodness. You know, I do like fussy. You know, I mean, I'll some please for me, you know.
But it just hasn't.
Absolutely. Anyway, so that's fine. We will see if we can figure out a different way to. Boston.
No, this is
Give them some coffee.
yeah.
Well, no, I'm not entertaining, entertaining all time arguments. But I think yeah, see it all of it. Yeah, everybody.
All right, we'll sort back.
Article 12, everyone has that. Okay, so we can bring along article. They don't have.
Somehow I got my guys.
You gave me. Oh,
Well, we have kind of stuff.
Yeah, we. I was not see that.
No, I remember that from someone else. It's not been very good.
Yes.
We're stay best for last, you know, it's never know what's coming. Ain't happening.
So.
You don't feel.
I don't know.
Oh, it's 12 noon.
You proposed a while,
Okay, that's what it is.
but you're.
I'm just looking at, so I would use different orders because of,
You're starting earlier.
yeah, no, right? I'm
Yes,
all
I-
for it.
He's colorblind, I can't see any changes.
That is true, oh my goodness.
So we're just negotiating back current contract, and if you start something out, we're putting back the.
But true, okay, so just for the sake of this. We would normally do that in blue.
Would you like us to have done it in red otherwise?
Yes, well, because that's just how we've done it, like in terms of, like when we're putting current. Yeah, we do it back in blue, so I don't,
We are passing you back.
It's housekeeping.
Well. Current contract.
What person?
Well, then she just pull it straight out of our book, hand it to you. Excellent. Thank you. Oh, I can't access for the whole time right now. Because I'm on the line back.
Yeah, we need to look at this and try and get the back with this.
On 12?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. We're just proposing.
I know. Yeah, sometimes you have to see the.
I've never been able to do that.
50
other people.
15's on them.
It's on the set, you got it. Good, we're gonna go to the red state for an 8.
Oh, my. Oh, let's see, that is.
We're all on 7 and 8. 7, 8, 9.
It's the fact one of my favorite.
That's a dad. That's a team back.
sorry.
It's a math. Yeah, I know. I got it. Well, she had it better to add to. They.
You know why 79? They wanted 3 square meters of it.
Oh, it's hilarious. It's great to be a lifelong learner.
Alright, you ready? So 8.01, we kind of go back for the word identical, we propose comparable. 8.02. Instruct this.
What is the intent of changing it?
That's, you cannot come up with the shared understanding of identical, and when we first had discussion, I think over a about 2-3 years ago, it was the course code, this, that.
Correct.
Was all over the place, and so we think comparable actually allows us to take a look at a teacher that may have an AP bio class or a general bio class. That they're comparable in that sense, that's not necessarily the exact same course. To create more equity.
Would experience be part of the reason? Should be the experience to be. Would not be appropriate to have a new teacher, have less than an experienced teacher found?
Less students.
Yeah, the first year out.
I think that's happening.
No,
Yeah.
no.
But would that not be justification for a different load?
Well, considering that we have 3 teachers, that would really be disparate to the rest of the people. I don't think we.
That's all I'm asking is.
Yeah, I don't think.
Okay. That's all.
And what you're referring to are the number of sections. Right, within. So. It's not the section of
Well, we had talked about sections at one point, and we talked about, the students within a section, right? If you have a class of 30 and a class of 14, doesn't balance itself out, because you're still having to plan for 2 classes, 2 sets of work, and so on and so forth, right? So that was one of our discussions years ago, and then it was like identical, led to exact course code numbers, and sometimes there's only one of that course, so there's nothing comparable to or identical to it, so what's compared? I guess.
I guess what I'm trying to understand here. If we just have here, with respect, what is the value of this? And what is the value of changing? So I understand.
When you have some classes that are a general level class, they're going to fill up significantly. If I'm teaching general levels all day long, sit through those classes, I might have like 150 students on level. But when we get into upper level courses or more specific courses, maybe all with the math department, there will only be so many kids that qualify for AP Calc 1 and 2. And so that's 2 different classes, 2 different sections. And so when you look at a math department and across the board, we've got a specific person teaching very specific math courses. You can find us the science, English, history, right? Specific electives within those departments that have these niche courses that therefore limit the amount of students. Well, suddenly you've got one teacher that's got all general, 150 kids, and another teacher that's only got 9, right? And so they're all within the same department, but now our teaching loads are significantly different.
Okay, so I think that outlines the problem. And that is if you broaden the perspective, you're no longer comparing apples to apples in terms of the class sizes. Situation. So you may have that specialized teacher who's very good, maybe the only one capable of teaching AP Calculus largely, right? That now a principal has to spread down into the general levels and bring up a teacher. It may be in order to make it equitable in terms of class size, bring up a teacher that does not have the ability to teach a calculus literacy into up into the calculus community. And that doesn't serve the team, that doesn't serve anything. So I think that would be my concern. That's why I mean, when we first started talking about it, I was afraid that was going with this, but I just want to understand. Because we need to have some level of flexibility to make sure that the best person to teach the classes, and that when you say we can compare identical, you say identical language, you can say okay, people that are teaching general, course codes, then you could say everyone's teaching in general is going to have 30 kids in the class because we have 90, right? It doesn't when you say comparable, depends on where you go to. Connect the dots, can you connect the dots between a general and an AP?
Right.
have this discussion.
So are you saying that a teacher that is. If whatever course it needs students and 20%, 20 and 50, but that's. That's fair, that's. What's best for the kids that are stacked into the general class.
I'm not saying. My comment was not aimed at what's best for the kids. Wasn't from that perspective. We got it in terms of trying to balance out schedule. And yeah, it is a reality that we do have. This broad thing. No, I think what I mean by this is it's important.
The schedule is built for the kids. That's the reason that it's sometimes. You know, because you have to offer. It's hard. Like this. So we have to take it. Proper schedule is not same. Schedule is built.
Yeah.
What kids.
Right, of course, we are thinking, but being 35 in a room is.
We can.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All I'm getting at
But
is
you may only have 5 kids signed up for help.
to be able to offer the training that I think that all of the to be able to get to the individual kids. This is a reality. So and we can talk through it more on our sides and determine if comparable is the right word to use there. I just want to understand exactly where you're coming from. So, because it doesn't seem like it's all change. It's a little different.
Wouldn't this exacerbate our problem hiring qualified teachers? The principal would have to hire somebody to teach all courses at the school.
Well, I think certain certifications cover a wide range of subjects, right? Math 9 through 12, math.
It's
5 to 9.
math 6 through 12 covers all the way from 6th grade beginning math to calculus. 2.
Yeah.
And only going up that.
It's good science.
Yeah, but it's science does have the issue where it's specific to biology and chemistry. That's it, just
That's a practical matter. I mean, some teachers you just.
Well, the argument would be that probably could have some teachers that apply to those. Environments. Or
But I just know decades ago, the AP teachers, even decades ago, just bring out 15 AP teachers. Just for getting people science there. That's. Yeah. Oh,
Are we done with some for right now? Has more. Okay, 8.02. So we struck this, we had a conversation about last session that might have put a contract for virtual school. So we've taken it out of this section and moved it to the virtual school section. As contract cleanup as 7.02 forward. So same sentence, just shifted to that section with virtual school.
it's the classroom, you know.
Any question on that?
All right, so 8.06 is in blue, it's still struck out. Had a conversation at the last table that the school board was interested in some of this language. What are they going to bring back to the table? What is a starting point here? That they really work on, so we, that's something up at the top. What's the little, you have to do there?
What's looking for all.
Yes, rather than just, you know, what is, they're willing to look at it, what are they going to look at?
But just if you had, the district had struck out all of 1605 previously, so we'd like to look for a contract like other districts. So this from.
All right, I'll read it. So continuity of classroom instruction to encourage and reward employees to assist in maintaining continuity of classroom instruction to parties that agreed to the holiday sending report. Employees who utilize 2 sick leave days or less each school year shall upon request be paid for the first sick leave day currently said school year. Or again, a teacher is absent for sick leave purposes 2 times, she may receive payment for 8 sick days of 8 days of sick leave. The following procedures apply to the payment of sick leave under this section. A, an employee must have a minimum of 15 days of accumulated sick leave remaining after the payment for unused sick leave under this section. B, the payment of this incentive shall be paid to eligible employees no later than September 1st of the school year following the school year in which the employee qualified for the incentive pay. C, for purposes of the section, sick leave shall be defined pursuant to Florida statute section 1012.61. D, days for which such award payment is received shall be deducted from the accumulated leave balance, and the E, number of eligible days times the affected employee's daily rate of base pay times 80%. So that's that. He's an equation. Okay.
So the 8 days instead of at your regular hourly rate would be at 80% of your hourly rate. So across the district less than full hour.
Probably somewhere, but it's still is deducted from their balance. So it's not paid in. 4%.
10, 25 days. Used to have the option to buy them out at 80% of what your hourly rate is. Give it to you. Someplace where it's sent.
I recognize, I guess I'm recognizing now that the incentive for Orange County to have done this is that they set it out at 80%. So able to make savings on.
We put it to 100.
We appreciate.
Yeah, I get it. I just want to make sure that that's where you guys are going. This is the purpose of this is to ask questions to make sure we understand. Right. That's what I was talking.
Well, if we did it at 100, we would have said, so.
I mean, so the problem is
A spot that's some.
to be clear, I think that we have we've had conversations around this. And you know, and that sort of criticism is that it's just respond and say, contract language. It doesn't. When I say to be clear, we are willing to consider this, but we have to consider the office. As we've indicated, we have $4 million to spend. Two of which are required to go to stop. But 2 we go to anything. So y'all want, you know, if 1/4 of the people take advantage of the proposal that you proposed the last, right? It's not this exact proposal, but the last proposal that you put forward, it costs $1.26 billion. So I mean, that should be important. So that's the reality of it. When we look at making changes like this, it does have a true impact on the budget. This beyond where we're at, as we indicated, we're already at very, very, very perilously close to that 3% fund balance. That we're not allowed to live our current home.
We understand our district's choices, but I do have that. And you're asked, sort of this,
We'll be happy.
so, you know, and that maybe some other choices have to be account for it. So, you know, it's all about the choices, and this is just something that we think that would help stabilize the classroom, give someone incentive not to take every Friday off. You know,
You know, spending so much stuff out there.
who knows?
Yeah.
Thank you for the line. Yeah, I think that the language as employed in Orange County maybe helps us to make the connection to ways that we may be able to make this work with that. So we'll just have to explore this a little bit more. And, you know,
I'm sure you can probably analyze how many these individuals to the class here, figure out what percentage of the instruction staff would even be eligible for something. Plus,
well, I mean,
you know, it's not even the
Right,
first
I mean-
two executive, first two teachers anyway, because it's not a balance of teams.
yeah, I mean, so I don't know. I know one thing about teachers, that they're generally high achievers, right? What I mean by that is if we have an incentive that is out, there will be a lot of people that will meet that incentive, that will do it. You know, they may take the lead now because there's no incentive not to take the lead, but they will achieve that so that they can get to that reward. And that would be great. We just have to make sure that you know, if like I said, if 1/4 of the teachers do that, it costs $1.2 million. Are we able to afford that $1.2 million at the end of the day? That's the math that we've got to do to make sure that it happens. If we're able to agree, it's language. We'll, like I indicated, we're happy to study it. I'm happy that we have language that has been put into operation. We may be able to talk with the folks at Orange County and see what's working for them and what challenges they come across to this.
What would be the sub-budget saved if 1/4 of the teachers only use student sick days and get it 1 time budget? I know you don't have it right now, but that would be.
I mean, the only thing I look at is saying that, you know, teachers at $32.50 an hour, way more including benefits, right? It's different than subs at $15 an hour. So it takes a lot of sub hours to make up for, you know, that level of teacher out of it. But that's not to say it's a bad one, it's just one of those realities that we have to.
6 Alrighty, so 1606, we've got, and bringing to leave shall not be denied, if a substitute cannot be secured, we're striking sick again. Leave is leave, so that would be our strike there. The side dish,
You understand the distinction between sick and why we specifically sick, yes, sick.
is
Well, it's
not
not sick.
sick leave.
I get, but personal charge to sick is planned. So that's the distinction. What we're trying to do.
Yeah, but you can't deny it, that's the much short 50%.
We okay,
Percent of the fact.
within the contract, we can. It's not.
That if nobody's off campus.
No, I'm saying we have parameters that are defined in contract, and we can deny.
Right.
And so, I mean, I'm not saying that we would deny that leave outside of the contract. I'm just saying, there are parameters within the contract that leave, it is planned, it's not like someone's got pneumonia at home. Right? In those kind of instances, obviously you can't deny it, right? But if you haven't, that's the big one in the school that are out with, that are, and you have a circumstance where someone has got a planned leave, there may be instances where it needs to be denied, and it's also within the parameters of the contract.
So let me, okay, for clarity purposes. There's already a provision that limits, right? Okay, so if a site administrator chooses to provide a leave, says, yes, you can have leave, that is above and beyond that, whatever reason. What you're saying is, if the administrator says it's okay, if they can't find a sub, then they can deny that. But if they said it's okay, then they said it's okay. So it doesn't make sense to say that it would not be for all leave that you could get if a sub cannot be provided. Because there's already steps before you get to that point that would already put you in a situation of whether your leave was granted or not. If your leave's granted, your leave's granted. Whether you find a sub, I mean, that's a separate issue of your sub pool than it is the administrator authorizing the leave, correct?
I think circumstances change. And obviously, within the contract, it is delineated when they don't.
So you're saying that an administrator says you want to go to your daughter's wedding or something, okay? It's personal charge to sit. There are already 20% of the people off the site, but the principal goes, I want you to be able to go. But then as it gets closer, can't find a sub, can't go to your daughter's wedding.
Goes back to the circumstance that I was out. It's very unique set of circumstances, right? Where you have a lot of people that are out. If you can't, what are we to do? If we cannot identify a
That's
set
a
of
managerial right.
It's like, at what point, if I put in a leave of absence in August or February, and then the entire school comes down with COVID in February, it's not my problem. I put in my leave of absence in August. And I'm going, I booked a flight, I've done the thing, I'm.
It's not a perspective, it's just reasonable and respectful. I mean, it's not a perspective at that point.
what I'm saying is I get your perspective on that issue. It's reason,
Because I think,
but I do think that the language of the contract is clear.
Clear to what?
Clear to when we may deny it.
Right.
But you're not-
I want to try to bear this out. So leave has, the principal's approved the leave. I don't care what happens to your site anymore, I'm taking the leave.
so
We
we're,
disagreeing with that right now?
no,
That's what I, okay.
no, I don't think so. No, you're not saying going
Right,
back.
the point is
I agree
50%.
with it, and I'm not going back and changing my mind
Yes.
2 weeks
Right.
later to take it back.
15% has been approved already.
Yeah.
Now I'm requesting to go to my daughter's wedding. You've been saying no, 15% is already been approved.
Right,
Right.
that's different.
Yes.
Yes, I think we're saying the same,
Yeah.
okay.
So this is a moot point.
Right, it is, exactly. So what they're saying is it's already been approved, we're not gonna go back now and deny it.
I would generally agree with that.
Right.
I guess the part that I'm getting at is with regard to obtaining a sub is the specific piece. We can toss that.
But so if I put in there to do something 2 months from now, you guys have to find a sub. So you're potentially just gonna sit on my leave request and see if you find the sub. Even if no one has been approved for leave yet from that, that's like, that's. It hasn't been yet in my scenario. So like if I submit today to you, right? And we're waiting and it's been like 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and you're like, well, I haven't found a sub that will cover in October for you. And I'm just like, I don't care, approved, right? So I'm asking like how long? Because there's the need not to be approved over 15%, so they don't have to. But then in general, when is it being approved?
The whole. It's interesting.
Right, I'm just saying that for provision in the contract doesn't refer to finding the sub or not. So it just refers to approving the leave.
That's what I was about to get at, is this is new language that you guys brought up
Because.
And so-
people have been told.
I know, but so like,
Leave, it was a substitute.
but so when we
After
talk
they've
about,
already
look about,
approved.
but when we talk about how do we incorporate language that you've improved, that you've, you know, brought forward and proposed. That's, this is an unconsidered issue previously, because it's language didn't get fixed. Right, so like, as we look at how we can agree with the language that you've proposed, that was the consideration that we put forward. We could reconsider.
To Nisia's question, though, I think when the last time we sat down, we talked about this. Many people were saying that their leave wasn't approved until after they took their leave. So there's a procedural issue on the managerial side of
Okay.
doing things in a timely.
So, okay, that's
That's
an issue.
yeah.
That's an issue. I understand that.
So if someone puts in for leave, it's coming, and they're like, well, we didn't find, I haven't approved or denied it, but you still haven't been able to secure a sub.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. What I'm trying to do is really, when we're considering new language, you have to understand, you have to try and understand all of the different implications, right? And yes, you know, the scenario that I brought up, where you have a lot of people, all these people out, the bottom line is we need to have code, right? So no, we don't want to unnecessarily deny leave that was already approved, but in some instances, with an emergency, you gotta come up with something, right? So I just want to make sure that we're not agreeing.
Feature you've approved. You're still under the understanding you can revoke leave you've already approved. That's your understanding. That you approved the leave and now the school day has come and you can revoke that. That is incorrect, I'm quite sure about that. I don't know how practically you even do that.
That's total. That's total.
Well, all right, let's talk about that.
It's-
It's not, but I'm sure
Wait,
that's what I mean.
that's-
Understand about this.
Is it something that we would want to do on a regular basis? No. But is it something that
I'd be fresh, like, what the hell are you talking about? I didn't see where that. Right, that's why I'm like,
and I'm not saying that we do it. But
you may not know, because I'm just a personal lead and that's where I'm going. And then just go where you approved me to have, like, I can take leave, that's not where I am. So functionally, I don't.
I understand that this may be in our pocket. Right. But there are instances when situations come and something may have been approved and it would be the right to decide. We can't approve leave because of this emergency situation.
It's not approving it, it's you've already approved it, you cannot rescind it anymore, you will be covering that class before I am coming.
We're really talking about the ability to send it from.
Which is,
That's for the.
That's the.
Yeah.
that's all. So you're right about before approval, you haven't approved it, right? But once it's been approved, that saves the majority, yeah. Well,
You guys have
okay,
you need to talk to the post manager that practice that seems.
You know what? I'm talking about it. In a theory. Perspective, not necessarily in the perspective that they're. So I think you're right, I think we should talk. And. All I'm saying is that I am not acquiescing that we do not have. 2%, yes, as long as the leave's not, if it's future technically. It's not happening right this second, like you approved it, but it's been approved. I've seen that happen.
Well, that was incorrect. But show me the contract language.
So if you know,
Well, yeah,
Right, that's talking about order of priority.
So you're talking about.
I submit something in August. And regardless of whether or not it's approved, I submit something in August, then he goes to something in October, November, December down the table, right? And regardless of whether or not it's approved, we've hit our 15% mark on this day all of a sudden. How are you gonna decide what's getting approved or not approved? Is it the person who did it in August 1st, or is it Johnny's wedding and they get more? I did it in August, I knew it was coming, right? Or whatever the time frame may be down the line. So we can continue to work on that.
I think it goes back to if you have. If you're timely processing that solves the issue. And then whatever that decision is the decision. And I think that most, if not all of our principals are very, very conscious of that and work with the staff. So that they can take a lead for this type of situation. I have not heard any of them rescinding the past at all. So I think this is part of the concern though, that now we're being told that we could be rescinded. Now we can be told
That's not what, to be clear, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you're saying that absolutely can't happen. What I'm saying is that there may be circumstances where that could happen, and we have not, we've not done that. But when you say it can't happen, I'm not gonna
I
say
didn't say can't, I say that you're saying that it can be rescinded. And that it can be denied. Managerially, you guys are gonna put together a robust sub pool that can fill position when people need to take leave. That's a problem.
I don't believe that that's true. We've got more than, we had a problem during COVID, yes, with subs.
Well, then there should be no problem with this language then. If it's a robust system. It's being, what's
All I'm trying to do is make sure that we have. You know, that's balanced, and it has nothing to do with it. We do have.
This seems very fair. I'm not sure what's imbalanced. Sorry, but we gotta move on this.
Okay, so B. All right, so looking at the previous proposal versus this new counter proposal. The site administrator or designee, and then you struck not a member of the bargaining unit. We have kept that struck in an agreement. But with the clarification that designee is not a member of the bargaining unit. That as it's been used in prior language throughout the contract, it's not a member of the bargaining unit, so we just want to clarify that, but in theory, we're agreeing to the strike. We just didn't read it based on our discussion and clarification that that's what our intent is that it doesn't, he is not a member of the party.
And by that you mean it's not the case. That's really good.
Not the what?
I've never heard of these.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, or in this circumstance, the notice person is not the designee. So generally speaking, that person, if it's gonna be in the unit, it would be someone in that kind of capacity. What's that mean? Capacity.
Every capacity that I've ever experienced, so that's someone in the office that.
Yeah. What I mean is,
They have to call their own stuff.
so
That's the problem.
I got you. So what,
The teacher.
you're saying that it's, that there won't be the designee.
Well, I stop personal bill, but I can. But yeah, that's.
Okay, so I know that I've heard of what you're saying, where it's say you need to. We're saying that it's clear in the contract. That should happen. Correct. Okay. Great. We've told them. Okay. That's the answer. But I think that just this language repeats itself in other places. Not a big word of the bargain, you know, just here, it's also referenced in another place. That's language related to having a representative office, right? It's I guess the way I was raised, that was the, because I've never heard of that principle designate a single person to be responsible for getting subs. It would be happens more often.
Yes.
So like they would say, hey, you're the on a feature, and say, Kim, you're the sub.
It's not.
If you were sick, deadly sick at 4 AM, you would follow the office.
Yeah.
Right.
They would cover it. You know, I think we can all agree it's reasonable that the teacher put in case off. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is the active issue of now you need to go find someone, say it's what we're talking.
So I guess the hard thing. You guys want to agree, you said we struck, it's not a member of the bargaining unit. You said, we're fine with the striking, but we want to have an understanding that it's not a member of the bargaining unit. Right. And so. I guess I'm asking. Are there instances, I recognize that oftentimes there are secretaries who are assigned or administrative staff that work. Executive, whatever, right there. they're the one that are given this responsibility, right? They're designated. But our, the no is where a teacher, like I said. You look at Kim, and Kim's the person on that campus, and designated for the.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. But other than the fact that they've designated every teacher their own subdivider.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
But not an individual person that you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we do have the unique instances of the big, that's what I was getting at, is a lot of times. If there's one person, then it's within the unit. That would be most likely delegated for these kinds of things, it's the fact that this team. You know, who's been a big use issue. That. It's this. It's power. You're.
Really
Just so I understand.
imitating letters, like soft as they.
I raised my voice very much, just said.
Moving along. Substitute shall be expected to perform all duties normally performed by the employee leave absent, period, sentence. Strike the rest of that. Wait for you to try the training. Okay, 16.14 agreemently, if we've agreed to all of this. Thank you. Sixteen point two one, we are restriking this. Proposing the path, the graph that we're treated as professionals. Same argument time.
There's already. Work that speaks at 3 or more apps. That you can ask for, but on the first occurrence, that's not seen. So it takes over. And as you said. Teachers go above and beyond. That's a deal, plus if we go ahead and get to any agreement that goes along with the idea of the buyback, that also mitigates this as well, because.
We're good? Okay, so 16.26. So originally, we had proposed a paid leave for employees specific to like parental leave. Right, we've re-modified this, we've come up with 16.26, 16.27. So 16.26, employee childcare. The Leanne County School Board shall provide free before and after school childcare to employees through programs that operate on Leanne County school sites. An employee is a person employed on a full-time basis. An eligible child must meet at least one of the following criteria. Be a biological child of the employee, be a child eligible for coverage on the employee's health insurance plan. Then we have 16.27. Oh, sorry.
So were you envisioning this in psych or just like the TOPS program that they can stand in?
Or. And people are reading it.
This is-
Or.
Yeah,
EDP.
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
that's all that you have. Thanks.
Okay. I have a 2-year-old, not there. Yeah, not there then.
Right now, it's really just not great.
But she basically, I think that especially that. We can do it next week sometime. We're gonna have to get.
It falls under me. It falls under B. Under B. You'll have eligibility.
Yeah, you'll get there.
We have to dig into this.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you know, I think. You know, it's a unique.
So this, I negotiated this at Taylor about 2 years ago, which is why AMB, because we already spent the hours figuring out who qualifies, if they're independent, all this stuff, and we said, well, the health insurance is already determined to qualify, so let's just give it to them. And that's, so I mean.
What I would argue is that we should just utilize the, instead of saying. Be eligible, you use the. that qualify meetings.
Right, so that was just like, so we were, yeah, same thing.
Because I would hate for there to be.
Should it be,
We'll definitely, we're willing to consider.
Okay, 16.27 is family care leave. A full-time employees. Full-time employee.
All
All-time employees, so there we go. Okay. Guys, it's what's, that's pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, that
all
was great.
full-time employees who have completed a 6-month probationary period in their appointed position shall be credited with 5 days of family care leave in the event of an illness in their immediate family. Immediate family is defined as, there's things that. Brief, yes. So B, employees will be credited with 5 paid days of family care leave on a fiscal year basis. Family care leave is not cumulative. An employee may use the 5 days of family care leave as permitted in 16.14C during the year. Employees will not be paid family care leave for days not scheduled to work. I.e. sick leave, annual leave, leave without pay. Employees are required to provide a doctor's note or other satisfactory doc.
We have a number of folks that have dealt with parents with cancer. Parent care or child care, some things. That has taken quite significant time. We get parental leave or that would be of a similar type of benefit to them.
This is essentially just an extended version. Because that's what's primary. So like. The only thing that I'll argue is simply was dictated by statute, 18 days.
Right.
Out of the, we'd have to look and see if we have the. Yeah. I know that we don't, so for instance, the statute also says that we're not at liberty to provide annual. For 10 months. So we could just decide to say, hey, we're gonna do it anyway. Because the statute doesn't allow here, right? So that would be my concern. But we'll definitely consider it and look into the legalities of it. So then
I do want to bring to your attention that this idea of 16.14. See, if you look back at 16.14C agreement, you see it's in agreement relative to 14C. That was what we canceled 16.14. So I'm just letting you know that in terms of cleanup, this model that I think we have to take 16.14. This is just grammatical stuff, but I'm saying,
yeah,
it's referencing something that would no longer let it just agree to it. So
So want to note on 16.57 as far as like potentially considering this in relation to FMLA. There are times when children that don't qualify for an FMLA thing. Rules at private daycares, if they are sent home with a fever, they can't return until at least 24 hours prior after they're sent home, right? So then that creates the burden of eating up time and so on and so forth. So that's where some of this language derives from is what are the policies around children staying in school when they are ill, if qualified for FMLA, they got, flu.
but you would still be able to use your sentence. No one's being denied. No one's going to be denied sick leave.
Correct. Nobody is
Taking care of a child who's got the.
That's not what we're saying here. What we're saying is in a comparable proposal as paid parental leave. That this would allow some more flexibility in leave and a lot of need for parents that have not one child, but maybe multiple children that are balancing. All of that to avoid them having significantly amount of unpaid.
I get you. I mean, I think that the way I'm looking at this is that you guys are looking for an extension of the amount of leave that is available for these times.
Correct.
Even though these kinds of circumstances would overlap.
Correct.
So like sick leave, you're entitled to 10 days per year. This would entitle you to an additional 5 days that's technically separate from sick leave. What is there?
that is not yours.
Yes. Yeah, they're sick.
The. This was. One of the things that I was planning on bringing up today is actually, we had a scrivener's error on our last proposal that. Was related to the math competition sponsor. And that was one that ultimately had. There was a lot of back and forth and discussion around whether or not the math competition sponsor should be a full an additional supplement. And it was ultimately our position where that should be covered through the existing supplements and not creating a brand new supplement. So, you know, in terms of our proposal previously, you know, I know that it didn't say seven or that, but that was said. We're not. So your second. Right, so. I guess people make.
The argument that we have against the math competition one was the idea of trying to do is really emphasize math competitions and getting more students involved in it. And if you put it into a block that can be broken out into a lot of different things, you don't specifically have that listed within your supplements as something for that you want to promote academically at your schools. And therefore, then there may be a school where they choose not to do math, but then you've now robbed those students at that school of an opportunity that other students have just because, well, we just didn't think of it, or we didn't know they're part of that pocket. We find it to be very important given STEM and all the different things that are, you know, priority right now. So isolate it and make sure that it's highlighted, which is why it's part of our proposal as well. So I'll just start at the top. Performing arts, we're in agreement with the 12%, but we do believe that if you're going to have a magnet school that has more arts programs, it's not fair in comparison to go ahead and basically say, well, you know, there's 2 arts programs at this school, but now we have 4 at a magnet school. We should be funding the magnet school at a higher rate. So we've isolated that. So that's a school like Robb Middle School would get more funded because of its unique magnet designation. In terms of the agricultural sponsor, this is a year. Do you have any questions about that?
Is that also good apple?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, any magnets, just magnet for the arts.
It's only two.
Yeah.
We'll thank you for the clarity.
For agricultural sponsor, this is year round, the state's driving, taking care of animals there. 4% is really doesn't cover the gas. So we figure 12% is more reasonable number for agricultural sponsor. Not just the duration of it being year round, basically, not for just the driving, but it's also the time investment. We can hear the animals and the different aspects of it. For math competition, we've already kind of covered that.
And so for housekeeping, I'll just consider this to be like the counter proposal. So like
After you said no,
after I said no, you guys would come back and you
just
should
imagine it red.
So now it's red. That's fine. So we can
You
respond.
can't tell it's red or green.
I can tell the difference. As long as it's not surrounded by a bunch of other black letters, I think.
Now we know
I have a
how.
hard time telling the kid.
Something different after the marijuana than the past.
The normal type and the red type is what's like the black type is hard to distinguish from the red.
Right. In terms of the new elementary supplements, we do appreciate the 4%. We do want to, or the 2% consideration. But again, our elementary schools are on the low end of any supplemental opportunities, and those teachers do put the time in, and it's well deserved. So we have countered with 4% PTO coordinator, STEM, and GIS. We have, I don't know, Celia can speak to their PTO coordinator if you want, but I know that there's a lot of work that goes into what that person does. So. Anything perspective, time wise?
Yeah, that person at our school at least is responsible for ordering, school t-shirts, selling them, receiving them. Organizing the carnival, selling tickets, receiving the tickets, like all of those things, all of the events throughout the year. All the fundraisers, sending home all the information, it's one person, that's a teacher. Doing all of that, we do have a small PTO. But I mean, they can't take money and receive and do all of that, that has to be a school person.
With that in mind, if we. So if you were to adjust the percentage, would you envision this as something that could be split?
At our school, it's one person.
So when you say it's just one person, I think it's somewhat. That's somewhat. You know, and so to me, it's like, oh, makes sense to maybe have one person do it all, you know, but. So would that be something, yes, would you want to allow for it? So the question of that.
Well, I know that you supplements. Are split, but I think part of the issue goes back to our other concern. I think we'd be duplicated because if we're not splitting what an assistant football coach is and we're duplicating it. Then why are we not duplicating other supplements and why are we splitting those?
Well, I think that not the exact same amount, because I think that it's not like we're saying. If we split two football coaches and they're doing the same job, yeah, I would say, yeah, we should do a split. Like, that's not what's like that PTO. Say you had one person that did the spring events, one person that did the fall events. That would be the reason that we might split. So we should question.
That's still a lot more work than other people in our school are doing.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And I agree that the question is just related to. Do you want to have the ability to split it or just have one person doing it? Because I think that when you have what I see as a lot of work, that I will have to be an option if it wants to be able to create, you know, a menu, if you will, that meets the needs of principals and schools.
Okay, we already agreed with like facilitator change in terms of names. When it comes to the facilitator, you know, and not recognizing the members that are serving on that. I think the idea is there has been, even through our surveys, school board members and the superintendents through the primary elections. It was very clear that shared decision making was one of the things that's the focal point, because that's part of that lead up by trusting down. So if we're going to have people participating within those capacities, we want to make sure that they're recognized to show the value of the work that's being done. So although we do recognize, you know, that a facilitator is going to be doing more, we want to recognize the members that are on there as well, which is why we counted up 2%.
So how many members would you anticipate that there are?
Those members are determined by what the bylaws say for the shared decision making council. So generally speaking, every area gets an opportunity to be recognized. So if it's a department, then it's by department. If it's done by grade level, it's done by grade levels. But it also allows for not just principal teachers, but it also includes support staff. Well, as a possibility, because at the end of the day, the idea is we want the school community to come together with that.
Which is sort of why. This was something that necessary. Because of the multiple number of additional subjects that are fiscally. And also, to your point, if we are including members from other units, that also creates additional problems and hardships, because generally speaking, we have very few supplements. You know,
I think the idea behind this is making sure that you are promoting strong school culture and you're recognizing the people that are involved in building that strong school culture. So we're.
it's just,
eliminating.
you know, when you talk about, it just, you know, when you look at it, it's just the reality of the potential for, I mean, I don't really have a good frame of reference, but the way that you are describing it, there could easily be 8 to 10 people on this field, which you're paying everyone of 2%. I mean, 2%
8 to 10 people getting how much for football? I mean, so
Oh.
it's matter of priorities here in terms of, you understand the athletics are important, we have 8 to 10 on that. We could have 8 to 10 here and it's not even.
We don't have 8 to 10 influence. There's more limited than that. I get in there when you understand. But all I'm saying is like, when you have 8. So for instance, we're originally proposing the STEM children that they were. That's what the fellow said. And for a person who is doing a significant amount of work, you know, and it may very well be. We can talk through it a little bit. But for 8 to 10 people to be getting the same as the STEM sheriff, it's maybe seems a little bit. Fiscally, maybe not.
We're open to exactly what we shared a couple of years ago, to remember about utilizing workloads of all the stuff. And figure out what is the most appropriate percentage for. But that requires. With our heads, is that. The workload, the travel, a number of things that would have to be into consideration, but we're open to that. If we wanted to be had to.
So what? The response policy is we are going to if there's any interim measures that could satisfy concerns that were associated with that. Three.
First on schools would have more than 10.
I think we have a check from the boosters.
Yeah.
for those. I don't think.
We don't have full.
I'm trying to find it.
I would, and after consideration, I think, I mean, there's gonna be some people that are split teams. I mean, you may have additional for JP, but to we have a certain number.
So there could be an outside funding source for.
I don't want to be quoted on it, Scott.
Oh, I'm not.
I mean, it's interesting because so what we're saying is just football can say, hey, if anyone wants to pay more money, we'll have more coaches. So any school could say, hey, if parents want to put more money, we can have supplemental positions for all this stuff. With schools, they can just collect money for anything and pass it through the district. You have the.
Yes, I'm gonna let Scott refer to that. I think that I believe that all of that is outlined in Scott's.
And it was.
So, I mean, it's not, this is not new information, you know what I mean? I'm just not an expert on this information at all, so. I know that it's, that there have been practices. Okay, so is that?
That's it.
Well, obviously. We're not gonna take an opportunity tonight to call this into the back, we're scheduled for 5%. But I would like to. Would like us to look at the other solution. You know, things that we have to do. And, to some extent, you know, we're sort of in the posture that first and foremost, we want to get the concession in hands. We didn't talk about concession tonight. I understand a lot. I will get you the information that you are requesting so that you're able to put together your financial. Right. But you know, what we'd like to see is maybe extended standard negotiation session for the plan. So that we can try and bring this to the close. You know, honestly, they did agree. You know, we've got a lot to consider tonight. The college feel like it's private. And we'll be so, can, you know, just as soon as we can schedule. It's gonna have a good schedule.
Will there be any benefit to like the next meeting to like have the proposed?
Well, I was thinking more along the lines instead of limiting it to 2 hours, if it's expanding.
Okay, either way, so it just was a lot, I think about it.
You know, together, sort of like we did in February, or in January, February, when we were going to try and bring it to a close. That's our thought process. I can propose a time. Yeah, right.
We'll give you a couple days, you give us a day. I hope you understand that when we encounter some of the things we encounter for. On the front, we have solutions, other things that we have to. We're just trying to think outside the box, might be some common ground. We do look forward to hearing school board in terms of it's either happy with the Appalachian, because we're asking about what's going, is there any caseload stuff that's coming down the pipe? So it is still something that is of concern. I think we can all recognize how hard the workload that they have. It's just a matter of if we can't go all the way, where can we go to at least have something?
I think that the concern right now is the impact of it. So if we had a budget. But so if we can find a way to impact caseloads without. It can have a really unpredictable impact on budget. It's an important house again. Personally, today, trying to figure it out, trying to cost it out. And it's an extra cost. So I mean, yes, we'll consider it. And we'll and yes, we're open down, you know, open ideas and what will work.
But I think we all agree that. It's either one person. Or it's paying people for doing additional work. So. 3 years work, has not come up with an answer on a solution that is not money related.
And I know what your response. We're at 3% now. We're a little bit about 3%. We're on how much? I look at how much it is, but we're at 3%. And with our budget right now, I think so. The more money that we spend on that item, it's got to come out of the 4 million, or we're below it. You know, I think on the whole, you tell me, if you guys have to tell me, what's your price?
And we can't consider,
Sorry.
we can't get certain things done, maybe the school board gets to look at that $5 million. That's being held for emergencies or anything. Exactly, so like.
We're spending 3 million, we're spending 2 billion about it, but still, so the problem is that the $5 billion can't be completely accessed because 2 is part of the 3% fund balance. So like we're taking, I'm sorry, 3 of it is part of the we're taking 2 from it, with 3 left. That is part of the 3% fund balance. So we are going into that. Yeah. And so that's what makes this a difference. Sorry.
Is there anything that's it for that?
Yeah.